You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. Today on the podcast, we have one of my very own mentors, Lindsay Schroeder. You may recognize Lindsay as I'm constantly raving about all the wonderful work and ceremonies we've been having together over on Instagram at the Britt. Or if you've been a fan of the podcast for a while, you may remember her earlier episode on astral travel and lucid dreaming. I believe it was episode 35. Yes, it was 35. And if you're not familiar with this episode, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. It's such a good one. Definitely one of the faves on the podcast. Now, if you're not familiar with Lindsay, Lindsay is a spiritual wellness, intuitive business, and mindset coach dedicated to helping others expand, transform, and embody their highest selves. I can say from experience, Lindsay's guidance and teachings are unlike any other, as I swear she creates the most authentic and sacred containers for her clients. I think for me, probably others would speak to this too. She just has one of the most individualized approaches I've ever encountered, and she really makes room for you to quantum leap through timelines faster than you ever imagined. The work she does is so cool. And in today's conversation, we are going to talk all about the divine feminine and embodying our feminine natures. This has become one of my favorite topics lately, and Lindsay has such an eloquent way of understanding and presenting the feminine. I really wanted this conversation to kind of open up on the podcast, but specifically open it up with Lindsay. I know y'all are going to connect with her messages as much as I do, so this was a very intentional selection. Really, all of my episodes are. Creating this podcast and bringing on these guests is truly one of my very favorite creative outlets and something I just take so much, just have such a passion for. It's just, yeah, I love it. This podcast, actually, the creation of my guests feels like a very feminine flow for me, and I hope that you can feel the energy from that. Now, I've included a ton of links in the show notes so that way you can connect with Lindsay further, or if you'd like to chat privately about possibly the experience of working with her, you can totally reach out to me on Instagram at the Britt, and I'd be happy to spill the details and just give you any insight that you are interested in. But in the meantime, I encourage you to join her Waters membership for a host of different workshops and events. And you can also find me in Waters, which is super fun. I think it'd be amazing if you would join, and then we can both continue our spiritual journeys together. I just, love connecting with all of you, love expanding with you. And just Lindsay's Waters membership is just such another fun way for us to journey together. And to that point, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode with the very wonderful Lindsay Schroeder. Enjoy, and I will see you on the other side. All right. Well, Lindsay, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you back on here. If anyone listening is new to Lindsay Schroeder, R&R, your work, you've actually come on the podcast earlier this year. Back, we talked all about lucid dreaming and astral traveling. We're going to get into some different topics here today. So definitely head back there to kind of learn the early parts of your journey. But first and foremost, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me the first time. Thank you for having me the second time. Thank you for the future meetings we'll have. Thank you.
Yes. And for anyone who's not familiar, I've been working with you for the larger part of this year. Really, you've been my coach, my expander, my mentor. I mean, just like so many things that you've done for me. I just so love our relationship and all the different kind of realms that it's taken itself. But for anyone who is new to you, I'll kind of let you explain a little bit about the work you do, the containers that you create, and just all the magic that you like sprinkle into this world.
Oh, thank you. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Lindsay Schroeder. My company name is Our and R. It's a gentle practice in asking us to slow down and be present and intentional, which is what my work is all about. I really focus on supporting soulpreneurs, those of us who are allowing our heart and our soul and our energy to lead us forward in life and in business. I support spiritually curious individuals, all of those of us who are called to marrying the practical with the energetic. That, like, yes, we do interact with the 3D world on a regular basis. We can fall in love with money and enjoy the beautiful adventures and occurrences in this 3D world while also transmuting and alchemizing and becoming so deeply integrated with our inner work because they're one and the same. Everything is energy. And so when we shift what's going on in our own selves, working with our paradigm, reprogramming our subconscious, developing our intuition, we create the up levels that we are so easily drawn to. I want that thing. I desire that thing. Oh, that looks good. The way that we get there is by doing that inner work, allowing ourselves to release things that are no longer serving and calling in the desires that we have and coming closer and closer to our natural state, which is immediate, instantaneous, magical manifestation because we are extensions of source.
Mm, so beautiful. One of the things I love so much about your work and the containers that you create that was so pivotal for myself with my journey is really looking at all of this work as a soulpreneur from starting out from more of a personal lens and the way that the personal work and the personal development and just really opening myself up and helping me to get more in touch with my soul and my gifts and my magic and communing with my guides and all of that really then segued into my professional work. And it was just such a beautiful expansion, especially for myself, where I've always been so career driven. And that's not a negative thing, but it was really you helped teach me and guide me through uncovering through my own limitations and everything that was just this weight that I was carrying with me for me to then step into this just flowy lens of entrepreneurship. And as a coach myself, it was just truly just such a beautiful experience. So I just want to highlight that.
Thank you. That's like one of the most beautiful pieces of doing work like this, that so many of us who have this natural ability to be really, what we would call career driven, ambitious, focused, get it done. We've been taught and trained and programmed in the more masculine sense of force, push, hustle, make, get it over the line, finish it up, do. And there is a way to shift into our own innate, our own divine balance of doing and being, that being ambitious, being career driven, desiring money, wanting success, these things are not wrong. These things are not bad, but there are ways to go about it in alignment and there are ways to go about it out of alignment. And one feels really good and one tuckers you out, tires you out, burns you out, and leaves you feeling depleted. And it's a big difference.
Totally. It's so interesting how we've been trained and taught, from most of us for most of our life that like things aren't supposed to feel flowy. You have to like cut your teeth and like sweat it out and hustle. And it's just so, it reminds me of this like soul remembrance in a way, but just this softness of like, it can be easy, it can be flowy. You just have to really learn how to allow, but then in that process, still taking conscious and intentional action. You're not just like sitting back and letting things come to you for the most part.
I literally recorded with another one of my program graduates a testimonial yesterday, and she was explaining like what she was kind of searching for and not knowing what she really needed. And she was like, I ended up Googling something like shamanic business coach. And she was like, an article that you wrote in like 2018 about what like a spiritual coach, a spiritual mentor, spiritual wellness coaching is and what it can do for you. She found me through that article, no Instagram connection, no opt-in, no on my email list, and was signed up within 48 hours. And it's like, that's the difference. We could force, we could push, we could hustle, and it can work. I'm not saying hard work can't bring success. I'm saying if we can get success, if we can get the thing that we desire through really hard, cutting the teeth, back-breaking work, or through flow, I'm picking flow every time. I'm picking standing in my authenticity, becoming a beacon, truly magnetizing those aligned clients, and having someone Google something, find an article that I wrote how long ago that maybe when it first came out didn't go viral, didn't get a million hits. We could easily deplete our energy, deplete the vibration around that and go, oh, it was worthless. Oh, pointless. Oh, it's not going to do anything. But in 2021, I have someone Google search that with words that honestly are not even in that article, find it, read it, and sign up within 48 hours. Like that is divine feminine marketing.
Totally, 100%. I'm excited to really jump in with you today to understand more about the divine feminine, even kind of define like masculine versus feminine for anyone who's unfamiliar. But before we do that, as we're talking about you and your work, what are some of the programs and offerings and things that you have available for individuals?
So my most intimate, my most sacred of containers is the container that Britt graduated from. I start with speaking to a 90-day completely customized private coaching program. I also offer up to 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months in that completely personal, curated, intimate container. I also offer tons of digital courses and online courses, my flagship course being a complete breakdown of how to reprogram, rewire, and realign yourself when it comes to limiting beliefs. So everything from being able to identify them, catch them, process them, shift them, and truly rewire the brain, the subconscious, the paradigm, so that we can open ourselves up to what we desire. I also offer energetic courses, for instance, like how to explore and understand and then scan the energetic system, like the chakras and the auric field, and becoming your own teacher and leader and guru when it comes to your own energy. Bundles and other digital offerings. And then the number one way that people can work with me right now is through Waters the membership, which is access and exposure to a bunch of different spiritual practices. It's samplings from different areas of my own personal practice. It's personalized, private, intimate stories and teachings and trainings, and just a way to invite those of you who are interested in this type of being, this way of seeing, this way of sifting through and finding lesson instead of burden, what I'm doing and what I love and what has expanded me. And most importantly, how to run that through the lens of the self. So it's not just, oh, what does Lindsay do? What journal prompt does Lindsay use? What practice is she going into now? It's here's what I've created for myself. And then here are all the adaptations. What feels good for you? Try this, see what you think. Try this on, see what you think. And then start to create your own version of these practices. And it's truly the boot camp for your own intuition. So working in that membership allows you to really cultivate your own muscle of intuition, develop your own clairs, so that you can start to taste these different things and go, ooh, I like a little bit more of that. I like a little bit less of that. Ooh, with this practice. Ooh, with that topic. And you really become more conscious of the fact that you are the conscious creator through the membership container specifically.
It is such a wonderful membership container too. I highly recommend. It's also, the price point is wonderful. It's so affordable. The value's right there. I mean, it's such a wonderful gift to yourself. You mentioned this, and I just want to speak to this because this is such a true just tribute of your own unique flavor with the work that you do, is really guiding us to see that like we can put our own unique spin on things. And you really opened me up to so much freedom in that capacity, because I've always been that perfectionist and kind of, again, force compared to flow, and understanding that, hey, when you're taught these things, do it your own way. Or you even will give like a list of here's things that you can do, but it's like, but pick out what you want. If something doesn't resonate with you, don't do it. Or if I'm telling you, pick a new way to do it. And I just love and appreciate that so much about you. And then that kind of leads us into the feminine, because that is a very feminine type of experience to do with a lot of these teachings and everything.
Yeah. So I think one of the big things around the divine feminine, one of the ways that I like support people and kind of breadcrumb them into this magic, is that you take exactly what you just mentioned. Instead of just a prescription, it's really considering, okay, what does it feel like? What serves you? What suits you? And that is the divine feminine. Our magic is listening to those intuitive hits. Because guys, if I give you, this is my step 1, 2, and 3, and step 1 really lights you up, and 2 is like, okay, like, yeah, I'm curious, I'm interested, and step 3 is like, absolutely not. That is your intuition speaking to you. In step 1, there's something that's so enticing. There's a vibration here that you are magnetized to. That can be soul recognition of that. That can be something from your Akasha. That can be a guide speaking to you. That could be the way that your body responds, is one of your clair abilities. So listening to what lights you up and what goes, not really for me, is as important as getting exposure to these different practices. Because it's not just, oh, I'm going to take this thing off the shelf and put it into my practice and it'll be perfect. It's about learning to really use these tools in our lives. Like you think about a professional athlete, they're not doing these drills on the side so they can get good at the drill. They're doing this so that when they're in the game and that type of pass or that type of sports word metaphor over here thing, or that situation happens, they have the experience and they know how to bob and weave. They know how to pass over here. They know how to like, ooh, I'm going to keep my eyes forward so you can't tell that my body's trying to do this thing. That's what we're doing with spiritual practice. It's not, ooh, I'm really good at meditating when I wake up early at this time and all things are perfect. It's, oh, when shit hits the fan and I need to figure out what that answer is, what I really want, where I want to go, how to problem solve that thing, that I can utilize meditation, that I can go into meditation to download something that serves me, that I can go into a breathwork practice and help me move stagnation in my body from this fear response or trauma trigger. It's about putting the drills, the tools in the game in a way that serves you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so much yes to everything you just said. It's so true, because I feel like it's interesting how within this line of work and self-exploration and really tapping in and finding your own gifts and tools that work with you, it's hard to understand their true potential until life throws you a situation that then you're like thrown into it and you're just like, oh, now I get it. Wow, yeah. Thank goodness I have this toolbox. Thank goodness I did all those drills, because this is how I can move through and really transmute and push through the situation. I mean, I saw it myself while working with you, a very intense situation that happened to me. And it was just incredible. I felt as if I truly almost just collapsed time in a way that I was like, I remember saying to you, I was like, how is am I supposed to move through this quickly? And you were like, that's just where you are with this work and on your journey.
And that's the goal. That's what we're aiming for, is that like, I get to experience life in the way that I desire more and more and more often. So if that's feeling really good, if that's being really relaxed, if that's a lot of peace, if that's a lot of joy, if that's a euphoric experience every day, like each of us defines what that goal is. And for some of us, it's adrenaline and adventure. For others, it's peace and security. Like each of us are called to these different experiences and what our goals are. it's what pulls us out of those things that we want, that we're looking to navigate with more ease, with more grace. And that for me is operating in the divine feminine, of like truly flowing with life and being like, okay, this thing, I could see it as a burden. I could see it as a hardship. I could see it as heavy, or it could be a space of learning, a space of transmutation, a space of alchemy. And that's why I really identify now as a priestess, as an alchemist, so much more than just a coach, because I truly am supporting you in that internal alchemy and becoming the wild woman, the priestess, the medicine woman to yourself, for yourself, of yourself.
Love that. So let's talk about the divine feminine and really embodying our divine feminine and what that might look like. But before we do so, I would love to have you kind of help us define the feminine versus masculine for anyone who is not super familiar with these phrases, has never maybe heard them before. What is feminine versus masculine as we're talking about it?
Yeah. So let's start in the place of polarity. So sometimes we can get really fixated on the fact that we're using masculine and feminine. So I love to start with just the idea, the premise, the understanding that there is divine polarity in things, in being, in this vibrational experience. So we have a North Pole and a South Pole. We have light and we have dark. We have divine masculine and divine feminine. So the divine masculine embodied in the higher vibration is the beautiful doing. So the masculine is what gets things done, the worker bee, the movement, the true doing. So a lot of us have really experienced this in a beautiful way when we look at our society of like, how are we moving things forward? How are we, growing in science and growing in the things that we can create and the structures that we have and even the overall engineering and communication and science and technology, the doing that moves us forward. And the divine feminine is the being, the embodiment, the emotion, the intuition, that flow state. Instead of doing, it is about being, embodying, truly just vibrating at that frequency and understanding the magic of what that means, that we can create anything we desire by being that thing. We can create abundance by being abundant. We can create joy by being joyful. It is so powerful and so profound to consider that through embodiment, through being, through energy and understanding that we are able to achieve and receive anything that we desire in this life through being, not just through doing, that there is such a duality in this space and that we are able to accomplish in both directions with both skill sets. And I think our society does a really great job of spotlighting the beauty of the divine masculine, of the doing, but not so much at spotlighting the beauty and the importance and the potency of the being.
And when we're talking about being, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier versus doing. Obviously, being doesn't mean that we're just sitting back and meditating and, hoping that things just come into fruition for us. There still comes a piece of intentional action that follows that, correct?
Yes, it's very much inspired action. And when we're acting, it is in that aligned vibration. So we've all been saddled with either a to-do list item, a topic, something for work, something for our business. And we're like, I don't want to do that. How many times have we then still done it? And we've been in the action of doing without being in the action of being. So I am not vibrating at the frequency of creating content that magnetizes people and that explains what it is that I do, that is enlightening and elevating and captivating. I'm just creating to put something up there to check it off the list, versus embodying what I want people to feel, how I want them to experience this. So you can write the same number of emails, the same number of social media posts, you can cold call the same number of people. But when you're in the vibration of being in partnership with the doing, there is so much more that is created because you're including the energetic with the practical. And I think that is what it means to embody the divine feminine in business, is that we're not just doing to do, we're doing with the connection, with the being behind it. We're vibrating at the frequency of what we desire while we're putting things out there into the world, while we're birthing new things into the world.
What are some ways that you kind of help, or even some recommendations for someone who is looking to, start making that transition and start stepping into more of this feminine embodiment, or even to like just help raise your vibration and raise your frequency and get off the to-do list?
Yeah. Probably my number one suggestion in this space is to flip the direction of the work that we do all the time. So many of us are pushing when it comes to, oh, I'm manifesting, oh, I'm creating, oh, I'm trying this, oh, I'm like, oh, putting all of this stuff together. And the work, the hard work, the forcing that I see so often is, oh, I'm going to think about what it is that I really want. Or I'm going to do 111 affirmations every day, this many times, or just so much rigidity when it comes to quote unquote, the work around calling in what we desire versus working on our vibration. And this is the number one suggestion that I give to people when you're ready to shift into more of a divine feminine space when it comes to your life, when it comes to your business, is allow yourself to put effort in to shifting your vibration before you put effort into all those things that you're doing, the affirmations, the journaling, the meditation, the this, the that, the manifestation, all of these practices that we have. If we're trying to do this quote unquote work when we're not feeling good, you have an opposition here. You are saying pretty things in your affirmation, but you're not feeling high vibrations. So we want to focus on the vibration first, the feeling first, because that's how we accomplish anything, because everything is energy. We must change the vibration. The vibration, the frequency is the most important, not the action, not the doing, not the thing that you're saying, the being.
If you don't mind stepping back in time with your own journey, if you don't mind giving kind of a personal example of yourself where when first getting into this work, you saw yourself really like checking off that checklist, nothing was happening. And then what did that look like once you really got into that feeling?
Oh yeah, let's use the abundance topic, because the abundance topic makes so much sense to a lot of people. So you can interact with all these beautiful thought leaders on social media and get all of these tips about how to change your money mindset and how to feel different about money, and this practice and that practice and 2-cup manifestation and write this down and have an altar. You can do all of these things, but if you never feel abundant while you are trying to manifest abundance, you are saying, don't think of a pink elephant, and then calling up that pink elephant just to try and move it out of the way. So if every time you're swiping your card, you're using the practice of there's always more where that came from, but every time you do that, you're rolling your eyes at yourself being like, oh, that's kind of bullshit. That's not true. I don't believe that. It feels shitty. Like it feels like I'm lying to myself. What you are doing is you are saying it with the conscious mind, but the vibration that you have is the opposite. And the universe, vibration, frequency, doesn't care what you're saying, what you're thinking. It cares what you are. It cares what our true vibration is. So the work is not just in the saying something different, in the doing something different, but in figuring out, okay, what is it that I can say or do or see or experience that actually changes my emotional resonance, my emotional response to this thing? How do I feel abundant versus just saying I am abundant or taking an action as if I were abundant? And so that was a big thing for me in the beginning. I was doing all of these practices of like having a crisp $100 bill in your wallet, making sure your wallet's all nice and clean, having affirmations posted everywhere, taking a screenshot of my bank account and changing the numbers and changing my passwords and grouping all of these things. I was taking action. I was doing stuff, but I wasn't feeling any different. I was reading these things and being like, yeah, that would be really fucking nice, but it's not true. And it's not here. And like, oh my God, why? And now I feel bad about the fact that I'm thinking that thing. And it was about changing the vibration more than changing what I was thinking or doing. So when I started to recognize, okay, when are the times that I feel abundant, and leaning into those things and working with a practice like anchoring, like calling up that memory, emotion, experience, getting into that vibration, and then doing the work, then typing in my password that had an aligned affirmation, or then looking at my phone, or then journaling, or then like seeing the notification on my phone and working with that affirmation, or journaling 3, 6, and 9 times. But I was changing the vibration first and then layering the intentional practices on top. That's when I started to see a difference, because I was truly spending time in the vibration, in the feeling of being abundant, not just saying I was abundant, not just lying to myself and pretending, oh, in the future, when that thing happens, then I'll feel abundant. It's how can I feel abundant right here, right now? And it can be in the tiniest little area, but that's truthful. The brain doesn't understand the negative. The brain also doesn't understand the memory versus the happening right now. All it understands, all our energy is that radio dial of like, where is my frequency placed? And so choosing where your frequency is changes what you call in, what you magnetize in. So I had to become abundant to receive abundance.
In what ways do you currently embody abundance in your daily waking life?
Oh my God. My abundance practice is like on another level at this point. My favorite piece is that I've actually turned abundance into a feminine goddess. I know what she looks like. I know what she sounds like. I know what it smells like when she appears. I know the place that she arrives at. So I have started to interact with abundance as a goddess, as an individual, as a being. We've become really good friends. We've fallen in love. We love to work together. Abundance finds me because she loves the projects that I work on. She loves flowing through my bank account. She loves bringing people to me and being like, this is a thing that's going to help you and support you, and flowing that through me, through my business. She loves changing the world with me and collective consciousness with me by allowing people to spend with someone who's so intentional, allowing us to put dollar emphasis on these beautiful practices. So that's one of the things that I really love, is that I have a personal relationship with what I have created as abundance versus just what abundance was defined as for me when I was a child by one of my parents or a teacher or a coach.
Oh, I love that so much. She's like this divine partner, very much one with you. So beautiful. On the other side of that, because we're all human, when you get triggered or when you feel, oh, okay, this belief, you're still here. What do you do to kind of flip the script and get yourself back into that ultimate state of being?
Yeah. So when I'm thinking or doing and the vibration is not there, what I've started to do is process the current place that I'm in. So for instance, if I have that like horrible entrepreneurial thought of like, oh my God, now is the turning point and it's never going to get better than this. It's just going to go downhill. I'm going to lose it. Like, we all have that thought in our business of like, what if no more money ever comes in? What if no one ever likes my work again? Like, what if this is it? What if I'm done? Or the dreaded thought of what if I have to go back to corporate? When those things come up, I allow myself to feel them fully. I engage with them. I'm like, what is the fear? What is the worst thing that could happen? I just explore it. And I try to remove myself from the emotions of it. So I recognize that when this comes up, it is not me. It is not my essence, my energy, my soul. It is a thought that's been programmed into my brain and my brain is spitting it back out at me. Or it's someone else's thought that I'm like empathically engaging with, but it is not the essence of who I am. So I allow myself to mull it over, to explore it, to feel it, and I don't grip it. I allow it to move through my fingers and kind of dissipate like sand does when you try and pick it up. And then I shift my vibration. So like I was talking about earlier, I do something that's going to elevate my vibration and make me feel better. Now, it's not necessarily always around that same topic. Like sometimes it might be going to the kitchen, getting up and moving and making myself some fresh juice. It might be going into my other room and doing a one song ecstatic dance practice after, like maybe I wrapped a call, Or maybe a client came back and was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of break before we like do more work together. I could easily go into a space of, oh my God, they don't like my work. Oh my God, I didn't serve them, this and that. Or I can shift my vibration and then experience that as everything's always happening for me and trusting that. It is so much easier to let go of the how, because as a human, we want to understand the how. We can't like get fully behind something without knowing the how in a low vibration. So if I can elevate my vibration through dance, through breath work, through cleansing and clearing, through a ritual, through a practice, through something that makes me feel good, get myself back into this vibrational state around what I desire and what I want and what I get to receive, instead of just what's physically here, that I'm able to magnetize in what it is that I want.
Yes. I know for me, even it also just makes, like, as an entrepreneur, obviously I wouldn't have stepped into this if I didn't love it in some capacity, if I didn't want to be doing this work, but I still had a lot of that corporate toxicity that was stuck on me, where it felt like such a negativity to be here. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to show up to my computer, and like my desk space feels icky. And then really you mentioned ritual, by incorporating these rituals and understanding that my morning practice doesn't just end when I sit back at my desk. Like, my desk is this beautiful, feminine, flowy space that I can wear all these different hats and personas, so to say, and be the CEO, be the divine priestess, be the marketing manager, and just really cultivating just this energetic exchange with my business. You were mentioning like abundance, having that relationship, and same thing. I very much view my business now as this beautiful, divine, feminine archetype. And it's just truly life-changing. I mean, it's kind of the only word that comes up for it.
Yeah, it's a complete reframe and restructuring. It's teaching us the number one skill set that we were not taught in school, that if there was one thing that we could teach in school that's not currently being taught, it's what I would vote for, is teaching people how to understand that not only do we have a subconscious, but we have a paradigm. And everything that occurs in our reality and our version of reality is based off of the paradigm through which we operate. So if you can change your paradigm, you can change your entire experience. And we're not taught how to navigate our own minds, our own energies, our own paradigms.
As we're talking about different paradigms and things like that, what paradigm do you feel that we're kind of really stepping into, whether as a collective or even just yourself, as you continue to make these quantum leaps throughout your own life? Because we really don't ever get to like an end point. It's this continuous journey.
Constant journeying. Well, one of the things that I'm experiencing a lot is that as a collective, we are shifting vibrations. We've come into this new Aquarian age. We're starting to like see and feel differently. We've definitely moved into more of a space of the divine feminine. And so people are kind of shifting between this like very 3D space to it more of a 4 and 5D space. We're also really starting to become aware of the fact that everything is perception, that like your world and yourself is so different from anyone else's world, anyone else's perception, even anyone else's perception of you. Like I was listening to a lecture the other day and someone was like, think about every different version of you that's playing a role in any story. Because even someone like a sibling of ours who spends a ton of time with us, grows up with us, explores this world with us, they're still not in our own minds, not in our own bodies, not hearing and experiencing everything that we are, not watching us in every space, not figuring out how we process and this and that. Everyone who we come in contact with knows a different version of us. We know a different version of ourselves than everyone else knows. And as we start to shift these realities, we become much more aware of the fact that perception is everything and that we are in control. And that's a big responsibility. It can feel like a big burden, or it can be the grandest of gifts.
Yeah. One of the things I think is so interesting with this too is also within this work, just understanding as well, like what isn't ours and what we've been carrying that may not belong to us, whether it's something from a parent that has gotten stuck to us through childhood or even from past lives or different wounds and things like that. It also, again, it just like takes that pressure off and really changes your perception of understanding, oh, this thing that felt so much a piece of me and has been keeping me up for how many nights actually isn't mine. And I can release and let go of this and completely change my reality.
Yes. And like, that's a big mindset shift for so many of us, especially as we become adults or really get into the space where we're like, okay, I am able to make decisions for myself. And like, it doesn't matter whether or not someone else agrees with me or thinks that's the right decision or this or that. It's ultimately on me because I'm the only one who has to experience my life.
Yes. In what ways do you feel that you are truly embodying your soul's purpose right now?
Oh, that every time that I am triggered, that I have an extreme reaction to something, that I judge something, that I fear something, that I am shamed by something, like literally any trigger that comes up, sometimes it doesn't start in this space, but I have gotten pretty good at making sure that at some point I arrive there. This is happening for me, not to me. And there is a lesson. I can choose to experience the lesson, learn the lesson, integrate the lesson now, or I can come and experience this with a different person in a different situation. But that's everything, that there is always a lesson for me, that my soul brought me to this place, brought me to this space, to this experience for a reason. And I can choose to show up for that, or I can choose to try and bury my head, but it's just going to come back again. So removing ourselves again, becoming that gentle observer really allows me to go, okay, I can easily see how I could take this as a burden, as a hardship, as, an issue, but there's something here for me. There is a pearl in this little grain of sand, and I can choose to bring that out, or I can come right back around to it. And that little bit of space of separation between reacting to choosing, processing, and integrating has been just insane for life, for business, for relationships, for friendships, for self-love, for self-awareness, for personal development, for everything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so true. And it also just takes like so much pressure off, at least for me. Like once I finally started understanding that and really embracing things instead of, resisting them, like you said, kind of turning the other way, it just was like, oh, like I felt like I could almost finally relax. Not to say those moments aren't still difficult and hard. And it's not that they stop coming either. Like you don't really reach this like enlightened level where suddenly you aren't having any lessons. It's just, how to move through them and you have this like confidence and you've kind of worked the muscle to be able to get to the other side that much faster.
Oh yeah. And then you start to find like the areas where it's easier. Like for me, work is an area where like it is flowy and fun and beautiful and enjoyable the majority of the time. Whereas like in other spaces where I'm like, oh my God, like for instance, in my relationship, I'm like, there are so many lessons to be learned here. And I feel like, I'm one of those cartoons that just like hits every branch on the way down of like, oh, there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. Let me just learn that one, learn that one, learn that one, learn that one, learn that one. And it can feel, again, overwhelming. It can feel burdensome, but coming back to this energetic vibration that I chose this. This is a beautiful gift to experience life as a human, to be a spiritual being in this physical vessel, to have the beautiful experience of being able to like eat and drink and interact with other people and love and joy and touch and smell and have these beautiful senses, have these beautiful emotions, experience our life through our body vessels, like coming back to that space of gratitude, even something like grief or anguish or rage or fear becomes something that we can be grateful for. And if we can be grateful for even the things that we deem shadow or lower vibration expressions, we're still emanating a frequency of calling that which we desire into our lives. So even when I'm hurting, even when I'm like journaling out the things that are so stressful and heavy, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this, that I am conscious, that I am aware that I am experiencing this, and that I get to, through this experience, shift my vibration and choose to come back to feeling really good and magnetizing my desires in.
So beautiful. You mentioned, so your relationship, you're getting thrown a lot of lessons and things. So for those who don't know, you are in a beautiful partnership right now, completely with your soulmate that you totally called in. However, we can be with our soulmates and be so in love and in this aligned partnership and still have lessons.
Oh my God. So I feel like because of that, because of being with a soulmate, because of being with someone who I intentionally called in. And for those of you who might be wanting to intentionally call in a like true cosmic soul connection, I have a course on it. So I will give Britt the information for that. I will show you my step-by-step process for manifesting cosmically aligned love, like to a T. I called this individual in. And because of that, one of the things that I really desired was up-leveling through relationship, learning through divine partnership, having someone who like cares about these things and wants to explore these things with me. It is the biggest space of growth for me because I asked for it. And when we ask for things, we don't know what they're going to look like. And, you know, I talk about soul contracts in that way all the time because I get that question from clients. Oh, so I chose this. And I'm like, yes, but not necessarily in the way that it has manifested. I give the example of my father all the time. I have had an estranged relationship with my biological father for over 10 years of my adult life and over 10 years of my like youth life. And so I explained that, you know, when we were up in the clouds signing our soul contract, I looked at his soul and was like, do you love me enough to help me learn, embody, and integrate the lesson of true independence and true doing it for myself and not for anyone else? And he was like, yes, I love you enough to do that. And I was like, wonderful, let's sign this soul contract. And he was like, yes, let's do it. And we sign and we come to earth. And he's like, okay, I love you so much. And I know that this is your goal, that I'm going to do this shitty thing and this shitty thing and this shitty thing and this shitty thing. And it's going to create the space, the void, the cavern for you to, like a phoenix, come from those ashes and create what it is that you desire to be through these experiences. And I was like, no, like, no, I wanted you to love me so much and hold me in this way and cuddle me and take care of me and support me and do these things, that it was, you know, a natural byproduct of the two of us having this beautiful relationship. And like, we don't get to choose how it happens. We signed up for what we signed up for.
Yes. Let's talk about that for a moment, kind of higher self healing, as I'll call it, because that has been really pivotal for myself. You definitely like brought that in to my life. And it's a perspective that I really carry out throughout a lot of things, in particular, the parental relationships. I mean, a lot of us as we're becoming our true independent adults and just an adult, you know, who was once a child, well, will always be a child to a parent, but it's an interesting road to walk. That's for sure. But you teach all about calling in, working with higher selves and healing through higher selves. I would love for you to touch on that if you want to go a little bit deeper, just because I think those listening will love this concept if they're not already familiar.
Yeah. So we'll start in the place of like, what is a higher self? So the explanation that I heard that resonated the most is an understanding of, you know, maybe multiple lives, maybe multiple experiences, incarnation, but take the pieces that align for you and let the pieces that don't align for you go. So we are like a peeled orange. We have all of these different slices. And so like each slice can be doing something different, can be experiencing a different life. And we won't go into the fact that time isn't linear and is stacked on top of each other, but each slice of the orange can be having a different life experience in a different corporeal body in a different space. One can be just energy. One can be this form over here. But our higher self, our highest self, is the collection of everything, is our true soul, our essence, our consciousness, and is the culmination of all of the beautiful things, all of the best things, all of the lessons, all of the learning, all of the gratitude, all of the joy, the euphoria. And so that essence is our fullness. And when we're interacting in these physical bodies, we have more energy than just our physical vessel can hold. So there's a piece of our energy that might be in the future, in the past, or it might have, attached to someone who we interact with. We might have given a little piece to a partner or a friend or this or that. And when we want to connect with our true self, we can go into a space of meditation, a space of journaling, work with crystals, and bring in our highest self, our fullest self, call our energy back from every place and space and person where it doesn't belong, and truly talk to, interact with, set intention with our highest self. I also really encourage a lot of my clients to do this with others. So you can call in the higher self of, say, for instance, a parent or a friend or a partner. You can call in the higher self of someone who maybe you have issue with or concern with. And instead of just interacting with the 3D, the physical self, the mind, we can actually bring in the full essence, the full consciousness. And I have found that you can get answers and information here that might take a lot longer or be a little bit more difficult to do that with the 3D self. It also has this beautiful permission-based space of like calling in the higher self and asking them, like, if this serves you, if this aligns for you, be present. I'm offering you these things, take what serves you, listen to what serves you, bring home what serves you. And it is truly in one of the highest of vibration experiences and containers, because we're going, okay, I trust my higher self, I trust your higher self, and what is meant to transpire, what is meant to be supported, received, released will be. And I love working with our essence, really supporting each of us and understanding that we are not just the thoughts in our mind, we are not just the body, but calling in the fullness of who we are. It's very similar to like doing inner child work, where we're calling up that essence of the inner child so that we can work with more than just our current adult self. We bring in that little kid that affects us as an adult. When we bring in our higher selves, where it's more than just our 3D self with our limited human mind and our limited human body, we go into the essence of our consciousness, our soul, our divinity, the fact that we are an extension of source.
Yeah. And that we are just really energy.
Yes.
Like it's everything. Do you do any higher self or inner child like journaling practices? Like where does journaling kind of come in with your practices and whatnot?
Journaling is like meditation, a backbone through everything, because I'm able to create with words. Like we create with the words that we speak and the words that we write. It also gives us access to the subconscious a lot of times as we're starting to like write things out and purge things out and remove them. It's a beautiful practice of taking what's in the ether and creating it in the physical reality. So it reinforces that, for lack of a better term, muscle memory or creation muscle memory of, oh, I can move things through me, really helps us conceptually understand that we are energy. It's not just physical matter and ideas, that we're one and the same. So journaling for me is something that I do pretty much every day. That might be as simple as just setting intention for what it is that I desire. It might be releasing things, writing down manifestations. It might be having a conversation or writing a letter to the universe, to source, to a specific guide. It might be opening myself up to becoming a more fluid channel. I can see in the difference in my handwriting, the way that I'm holding my pen, just like the imagery that comes out, whether I'm writing as myself, whether I'm writing as my higher self, whether I'm channeling a guide or, someone who's here to support me. Journaling and using the written word and my own hands and that true transmutation process just allows me to open and receive so much, just like meditation allows you to clear the mind and receive so much. It's a physical meditation for me.
I love calling it a physical meditation. That's fun. That's so true. It's funny with the handwriting, because initially in my own journey, whenever I was having more of that channeling coming through, I was at first, the human mind, I was like, what's wrong with my handwriting? Like, right. What is this? Like, I can't even read this. So it's again, just kind of that trusting and honoring. And then once I understood what was taking place, I was like, ooh, okay, this is very meant to be. This is very exciting and everything like that. You also, as we're recording here in real time, might have even been this week or last week, but recently you just launched your own journals, which is so exciting. Having, whether it's a journal or a product of my own, is definitely something I aspire to one day. But do you want to tell us a little bit about your journals and what they are and what they offer?
Yeah, I actually have them next to me, so I'm gonna use them physically so you can at least see. But I created, my first two are a journal for conscious releasing and a journal for conscious manifestation. So each of them are intentionally a little bit smaller. They're buttery, they're velvety, they're matte, they're gorgeous. I've got a ton of different covers for each one, but they are here to kind of be these little support pieces in the journey of your conscious releasing and conscious manifestation practice. So the first one is really all about becoming that open fluid channel by clearing out stagnation. So what can you purge into this journal and cross out? What can you purge into this journal and then burn? What, little pieces of inspiration and quotes and ideas can I offer you that will allow you to let go of things that might feel sticky or heavy, might encourage you to become more aware of what is that thing that I think or believe that stands in the way of what it is that I desire. And then after you start working on that releasing, I created a conscious journal for manifestation that offers you the 4 steps, the overview of conscious manifestation. And then sporadically throughout the journal itself, it gives you a picture prompt. So a space for each tip and each step. So it'll say step 1, it'll remind you of what that step is, give you a space to write that down, and then it'll offer you a tip. So since you're so familiar with the practice of manifestation, I'll read you a few of them. So in step 1, we identify our desire. And one of these tips that I wrote is use what you do not want to inform what you do want. So as we're getting clear on what it is that we desire, we can utilize what we don't want. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, that didn't fit. But we want to morph it into teaching us what it is that we do want. So it's basically reminding us to not stay in that negative, but to use the negative to figure out what it is that you actually want. And the reason that's such a great tip is that the brain doesn't compute the negative. Oh, I don't want that. Okay, use that to figure out what it is that you do want, because anytime that we focus on something, list it, picture it, write about it, we're actually calling it up into our vibrational space and we're becoming it for a little bit. So that way it encourages you to write out, journal out, spend time with your manifestations, but it's also offering you practical advice to help shape and navigate that path so it becomes easier and easier.
Cool. Your journals look so beautiful. I'm so excited to get some myself. You can tell that they've just come completely from your heart and your space and energy. Where can people find you, of course, to connect with you, but then also to buy your journals and learn more from you and all that you've got going on?
My website is ourandare.com. So that is OURANDARE.com. And there is a shop page on the website so that you can explore all the different covers for both the releasing and the manifestation. They're actually for sale on Amazon. So I'm really excited being able to offer not only my one-on-one and private programs now and my membership, but truly making this work as accessible as possible, getting it out there so that even if you're ready to just kind of start with one conscious releasing, one conscious manifestation, that you have a little piece of me in your home, in your practice to encourage you and expand you and start up-leveling your life, your business, your experience in all ways.
Wonderful. And how cool that your journals come with the tips and the prompts and everything already in them, because sometimes, it's beautiful to also have blank notebooks and things, but sometimes a blank page can feel a little intimidating as well. And just having that natural prompt already there for you, just so beneficial.
just a way to encourage you forward and be that supportive little cheerleader. I've tried to embody all of the beautiful pieces of my practice as a coach into these journals. So it's taking a little piece of this work, of the way that I hold space, and bringing it home for you in every facet of your personal practice, anywhere that it might suit you.
Cool. So fun. Well, to close out every episode, as you know, we always end with some loving your own soul questions, just some kind of on the spot, rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit more. First question that I have for you is, I would love to know who is inspiring you right now, or who have been some of your kind of inspirational teachers over time?
Yeah. So in my space of work, I have two divine feminine practitioners, shamanic, beautiful beings. My dear, close, and personal friends, Nishala is someone in this space who's just doing it in a way that is so her and is so aligned. And I've been looking up to her since the very moment that I met her. And we work together and flow back and forth and teach each other and learn from each other and hold that space for each other. So I will forever be inspired and elevated by her, as well as Alexandra Roxo. So if you guys haven't read the book, Fuck Like a Goddess, I've been involved in Alexandra's Moon Club for quite some time now. I was pre-pandemic hosting Moon Club gatherings at my home and meeting and teaching, and I got a ton of beautiful soulmate client connections from this space. Of she's really brought together women who care about these practices and learning about these things and want to step into a more deeply embodied experience. And so being invited into that community was really powerful and really special. And I just love how she does her work, and I believe so much in her. She actually connected me with the woman who made my sacred drum, and there's just so many overlaps in our work, and I'll forever be inspired by her as well. And then my most intimate teacher and trainer and guru and leader is, as I mentioned before, my partner. Bliss has taught me more in such a short amount of time about myself, about my practice, about my capabilities, about personal development and self-reflection and all of these different things just through her very essence. I refer to her as my Shanti, or my altar, because everything that I place like at her feet or upon that relationship is made more sacred, as if it is an altar versus just a table. And she truly is my peace. Like, I'm the Shakti, the like divine feminine power, madness, that Kundalini snake. And she is just this piece that brings balance to everything and allows me to see with much more clarity. Sometimes it's really, really murky and messy and muddy beforehand, but eventually the water's still and everything settles. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense now. Thank you. Such deep work through partnership that she will be the grandest teacher that I will ever have.
I love that you brought in Bliss of one of your teachers. So true. Partnership is incredible. Yeah. What role does music play in your divine feminine flow and energy?
Maybe besides personification, the largest role. As being a one-on-one client, being in Waters, the membership, you know that sound is included in pretty much everything that I do. Like, I am either playing a singing bowl or doing vocal toning or tuning forks or tingshes or rattles or all of these different things, mantra and moving things through the throat chakra. But sound is pretty much everything. It's one of the easiest ways for me to shift my vibration. Songs hold different vibrations. I actually have almost like a catalog, like dictionary definition of which songs have which vibrations. And I'll like do a little write-up or story of it. So I can literally sift through and select a vibration to put on, like I do an outfit, or how some people do a fragrance or a lipstick color.
Cool. I love that. If you were a crystal, what type of crystal do you think you would be?
Moonstone or apophyllite. They're the two that it doesn't matter how many I have. I always want more of them. I love them. And every moonstones, particularly in every color and every size and every shape, I will always find the moonstone anywhere. And then apophyllite is just my favorite third eye crystal. And I'll always gravitate towards it and love it. So if I were a crystal, it would be either moonstone or apophyllite, or ideally the two of them growing closely together, maybe even on top of each other.
Yes. What is something most people don't know about you?
Oh, I'm a pretty open book and I share a lot with people, but I will say that I have a random irrational fear from a childhood reoccurring dream. And as you know, I can lucid dream and I can astral project. And I've had such a beautiful relationship with my dream space. There's only ever been one reoccurring dream that wasn't beautiful and profound and amazing and so enjoyable, at least that I remember. And I have a really irrational, random fear of grizzly bears. Not a lot of people know that.
Interesting.
And yet, that's my favorite. That's my football team. Like, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. My first picture as a baby is in a Bears blanket. Like, I have a beautiful relationship with bears, but I have an irrational fear of grizzly bears because of a reoccurring dream as a child.
So interesting. I had a very vivid and physical dream about grizzly bears literally 2 nights ago. So you saying that still stirs that fear because it was very much like the bear was coming. It was, and I don't really have scary animal dreams. And I woke up and it was whew. So
that's exactly the situation where I'm okay, normally I can control my dreams. I lucid dream more than I regular dream. I'm always super aware, super available. I can click into it when I choose. I can astral project for the most part, when I'm trying to. And this dream was reoccurring and I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't change it. I couldn't shift it. And so it did it instilled a little bit of an irrational fear in me. And it's just, it almost makes me giggle at this point because I love bears so much because it's my football team. It makes me laugh because I can definitely tell that it's something more than just, oh yeah, I had a bad dream once about it. I'm I can feel the tethers in a past life. I can feel the tethers in that dream. I can feel that the tethers come from the individual that was in that dream and it comes from a life where we had together. There's so many things to it. And it's just kind of this that's crazy.
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah. And not a lot of people know it because that doesn't come up in conversation. Normally it's I have a random irrational fear of grizzly bears. Okay, cool.
Oh, I love that. If you were to give your younger self a quote or mantra or a piece of advice to live by, what do you feel that would be?
I'm laughing. So I tattooed this quote that I've loved and have lived my life by for so long. And it cracks me up that so much of his work, it comes back around and around and around again and goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So probably over 10 years ago now, maybe even longer, I tattooed the quote, "Follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where there were once only walls," on me. I, for some reason, which I totally understand now, was very adamant that the word bliss, even though it's in the middle of the sentence, would be capitalized. So I've had Bliss's name tattooed on me for quite some time, even before knowing her, meeting her. And I lived my life based off this quote and meeting her and doing all of that work around the space of conscious manifestation and consciously calling in an aligned partner in that way has just really taught me that following your bliss is not one of the tools, is not one of the teachings. It is the teaching. It is everything. That everything I'm learning, everything I'm teaching comes back to that if we are following our bliss, if we are following what feels good, if we are taking care of our vibration first, everything else falls into place. And to have that quote be such a part of my life, and then have that tattoo be such a part of my life, and then have that person show up in my life teaching me that lesson even more, and then having that quote become oh my God, I get it more and more and more and more. It's everything. And I'm so grateful for the fact that my synchronicities at this point, like, smack me in the face. They're not subtle. They are not gentle. You cannot overlook them. And I just love that.
Wow. Talk about like what is for you is always for you. I mean, it's everything and so much more than just, coincidences, which I know we don't really believe in. Like, yeah, powerful. So powerful. Final question. The name of this podcast is Loving Your Own Soul. What does loving your own soul mean or look like to you?
And this answer will be a little bit different because I've recently been doing a lot of shadow work, and the new up level, the new expansion, the new depth to that answer is acknowledging and honoring and falling more and more in love with all parts of myself. Because for the longest time, loving my own soul was really focused on the higher vibration, the gifts, the beauty, the joy, the fun, the ease. But now I'm honoring my shadows and my trauma and the things that I'm not great at and the things that take a little bit more work and the spaces where I trip and fall really frequently, but honoring my entire being, my entire soul, and even the pieces that cannot be contained in this form, cannot be contained by my conscious mind, like the fullness of who I truly am beyond just this human experience. That for me is the new up level when it comes to loving my own soul, is really honoring what the soul is beyond just what the human is.
So much depth in that response. That's incredible. Well, Lindsay, thank you. You are truly just such a goddess and just, such a wonderful being. This was such a fun conversation. Again, for anyone listening, highly recommend going back and listening to our other conversation if you are curious about lucid dreams and astral projections and everything like that. Otherwise, definitely go follow Lindsay, check out her work. Obviously, I can speak firsthand about how incredible it is. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. Again, we were talking about gratitude earlier. I'm just so grateful for our connection and continued evolution of our own relationship.
Me too. Having soulmate clients and working in this space of like, this is what I'm meant to do, what I love doing. And I work with other individuals who are deeply connected and deeply committed to this work, to this way of being. And like, what could be better than that? What could be more enjoyable than that, than waking up every day loving what it is that we do and what we're putting out into the world? So thank you for being you, for bringing your magic to this work and sharing space with me.
Such a good episode. Is Lindsay not just so divine? She's truly a high priestess. I love her. And I'm just so grateful for her presence in my life and her presence in your life as well. Because with these podcasts, I know you learn so much. So yeah, kudos to Lindsay. And last but not least, as always, if you feel inspired and you enjoyed today's conversation, I would be so honored to have you rate and review the show. Your ratings and reviews mean so much to me and our wonderful guests, and in return, they really do help me grow the show and to continue bringing on more incredible souls. Plus, be sure to drop in on Instagram and let me know what you're enjoying about the show, guest or topic recommendations, or even just to say hi. You can find me at the Britt Olson. And I just truly love connecting with all of you. It's one of my most favorite things. This community is so special. It truly just lights up my heart so much. And if you're interested, I would love to invite you to also join our private Modern Wellness Community Facebook group as well. Thank you again for tuning in and being a part of this community. Thank you, Lindsay, for holding space with us. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you again soon.